Hello everyone. On my last speech, I discussed geographic, economics, laws, and politics of Finland. And I invited all of you to come here, visit, and invest. Now I know you are interested on moving and working here in Finland, so I will let you know my country's culture and business etiquette. In Finland, people speak two official languages, Finnish and Swedish, and most Finns belong formally to the Evangelical Lutheran Church. People in general are fairly secular in their views. Despite this, personal religious views are respected. If you are willing to come here and start working, you must know that Finns do not like physical contact. They value a lot their personal space. Finns are very modest and downplay their own accomplishments. That's why they do not like people who show off their riches. They view being humble and modest as virtues. Finns also talk in moderate tones and do not do anything to call attention to themselves. What someone says is accepted at face value, and this is a culture where a man's word is his bond, and it will be treated as seriously as a written contract. So, verbal commitments are considered agreements. Finns are direct communicators, so expect your colleagues to tell you what they think rather than what you want to hear. When doing business, greetings are formal, with a firm handshake, direct eye contact, and a smile. It is common practice to repeat your first or surname while shaking hands. Finns take time seriously. It is necessary to always make an appointment in advance in order to talk to someone. Take into account that Finns take vacations during the summer, so do not make an appointment between June and August. Always be on time or even arrive earlier. Finns start and end meetings on time, and they say that being punctual is a sign of respect and efficiency. Finns do not appreciate small talk. They think that your speech should be better than silence. If it is not, be silent. Something curious about Finns is that saunas have a special role in their lives. So do not be scared if after an important meeting your boss asks it to be followed by a sauna in which the conversation is continued on a more informal basis.
Great, thanks. Should I ask you now some doubts about your comment, Alejandra?
Yes.
Or yeah.
Yes, please.
Well, it's very particular how Latin people is quite the opposite to those features that you explained. So I would like to know more about the communication. We used to talk as a Colombians and Latin people. We used to talk a lot. So what do you mean by the communication, and how is it that they are they use a different way of communication? And also I would like to know about the personal space, how the personal space is so important in the culture, and because as well is all the difference that we can find here in Latin America as a movement of not talking just about the dance, but even the day by day into the traffic, into many spaces. So would you like to talk to me about the communication and the personal space a little bit more, please?
Yes, of course. A big difference between Finland and Colombia is the way people communicate. So Finns have a low context communication. That means that they are very explicit and direct. The guiding principle in Finland is to minimize the margins of misunderstanding or doubt. That's why they don't talk that much. So they think that they talk necessary what they want the people to know, and they think that if you talk a lot, it is like confusing because you're not saying what you mean, but going like on the bushes. So that's why they don't like it. In Colombia, people have high context communication, in which Colombians tend to be more indirect and expect the person they are communicating with to decode the implicit part of the messages. So in Colombia, people not only talk with using words, but they talk with physical contact, with the expressions and the subliminal messages that some people send. Like, for example, when you're talking to a friend, they may be thinking something else, but they want you to know that just based on the context. So it is very different in Finland. So don't expect if you come here for Finns to know and understand your indirect messages, because they will interpret and understand things said by word, not by I don't know, like facial expressions and things like that. They won't understand. What about physical content? Well, the space takes up a big part of communication. As I said before, Finns do not like physical contact. This may be due to the cold weather, which makes us more individualistic. On the other hand, Colombia loves physical contact. This may be due to their warm weather and vibrant personalities. Another important aspect that I want to emphasize is that time is very important for Finns. They do not like people who don't respect other people's time without even thinking that maybe the person was late due to a situation they couldn't avoid. So if you are late, you had an accident or something like that, they wouldn't matter. They will be upset anyway. So it will be difficult for Colombians to adapt, because Colombians are more flexible with that subject, okay? So for Colombians, time is important, but people, relationships, and the well-being, it matters more. So that will be hard to get into and to understand, because Colombians are more flexible on that subject.
Yeah. Oh, pretty nice. Okay, it's so far so clear. Okay, well, it's my time to talk. So I would like to talk about India. At first, I would like to say that India is like a pretty different culture, and it's an Asian culture. So what to know to go to India? This is a virtual travel guide and with some tips and advices. So let's check it. Okay, at first, India is a culture. It's one of the oldest culture in the world, and it began about 4,500 years ago, which is pretty long time ago. And it's very known because it's like the supreme culture at the world. So they are proud of that kind of tradition at the beginning. You can find many different subcultures into India. That's pretty important. So as Colombian country, I guess we are different in some way, because the landscape is different from the coast to the mountains and so on. So India is quite similar in that way. In each state, you could find different language, different kind of thinking, different religions, and it is very interesting how it works and how is the biggest democracy in the world as well. So talking about the language, communication in India could be a little complicated, because although English is used in many cities, it will not always be useful to communicate. In India, there are more than 23 languages, official languages, and it's very complex to understand how even in how having those proportion of dimension of languages, they still can communicate between them. So it's very important to understand that kind of differences, and to take in mind where you're gonna go. Yes. So according with the place that you are going to go, you must do a little research about it. Which language specifically they talk in that part of the country. Yeah. So regarding about the religion, is other kind of huge and huge landscape, let's say. So India is so very known by the Hinduism and Buddhism. Suppose India is identified as the cradle of those religions. Yeah, and about the 48% of the populations are Hindu. Yes, Hindus. So but therefore it means that they are polytheist. Yes, in some way they respect the religion, and it's very important to know that during the last days, the years, um, Islam culture, Muslim, they were having like a not so good relation between the polytheism and the Muslim culture. So for that reason, as you could know, so Pakistan born as a new country, right? So you have still into India many Muslims, and that's quite complex. So you must know it. If you go to a place that is, very known because it's Muslim culture, you must know that they are not so open to other kind of religions. But if you go to a city where is polytheist, you must be, ready to see many different kind of expressions, religion expressions. Yeah. And talking about the cuisine, which is the most important for me in my case, because I love the food. You must know that the food is so spicy, and it's spicy because they want to kill the bacteria from the food, and they have a problem with the water. So it's not too easy to find water in good conditions. So don't worry about the spicy, because at the end the spicy is doing a good role to keep you healthy. So finally, talking about the business, well, I guess that this culture is very open-minded, and they have a large story about the commercial with different kind of cultures, so they are open-minded, and they are flexible in some ways. They prefer the not the details in the specific things, like it could be German or even Finland culture. They used to produce huge products in to huge companies, so they don't care about the details. And of course, they have some rules like stretch the right hand, and exchange cards with the right hand, and or say namaste. They used to talk first about the family, and the emotional things before to go to business, and those kind of stuff. So that's like the main idea of India. Do you have any question till now?
Yes, when you say that it is difficult for people to communicate in English, even though English is spoken in India, how can I, as a foreigner, communicate effectively without even using English? I mean, that is
Well,
very hard to understand.
yeah, well, at first, the first experience that you're gonna find in India is no communication, no normal communication, but it's normal between them. My advice is that when doing business, especially, you have to go with a translator who speaks at least the most important languages, which is Bengali, Hindi, Tamil, Marathi, and of course English. So it's very important when doing business, take a translator with you. That's you have to do. Otherwise, it's going to be really complex to move on, to make deals, and to keep the cultural crush in a good way. So it's better take a translator.
Yeah, I think it is a very interesting country, but it is as well very difficult to understand. Like it has a lot of limitations, I will say, like for foreigners.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to adapt yourself to no communication, as you said, at first, because if you don't have a person that helps you, then you will have to use, I guess, physical contact or like
Mm-hmm.
touching things or something like that in order to understand or to to do the basic things like ask for food or something like that. So that is interesting. I didn't know that, and I appreciate that I know it now.
Yeah, it always is better go with a local, with a person who is living there and who knows the culture. It's going to be, especially if you are doing business, right?
Okay. Yeah, I think that's it for
That's
today.
it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, many thanks.